One is this whole sense of ownership is very, I would say, we have a concept called a DRI, which is an adopted concept, a directly responsible individual. So for any initiative that you take, that you have, there is one individual who's directly responsible, okay, who's the captain, let's call it that. And teams have to listen to him or her, essentially, end of the day. Okay, that's there. Unless there's a huge conflict, the other people get involved, all that. But for the most part, we it's like we trust and even if it means we disagree, but we commit. Okay, and then because then you have one person's head on the line, you know that he or she is the DRI for it. So DRI concept is pretty popular internally here as in the company. That's the DNA of the company. We love to decentralize responsibility to the last mile. We want people to work in a very autonomous manner. You empower them, you decentralize responsibilities, and with responsibility, you also decentralize control. Okay, you have those, guardrails, but you don't try to micromanage. That's something we don't do at the company in any role for that matter, not just marketing. And I think it
Okay.
starts to work. There are obviously times when something will fail, an odd, instance of something, be it a person-led or a team-led or a product-led, an opportunity lost, all that happens. But then the mechanism is to sort of course correct that. At Zoho, the community initiative is very, very powerful and something we've had our heart and soul put to. My colleague Vidya, she drives the whole initiative globally. And so her team is always on the go. We are doing a community meetup in some city pretty much every other day. Okay. It's like it's like a half a day thing, a small team of 2-3 people parachuting into a city so that we keep it low key in terms of costs and operations and whatnot. Very clear agenda, working with local community champions and partners to put together a crowd of 50, 70, 100 people, depending on the city and the size, etc. And then we educate them about existing products, their usage, their challenges if there are any. The agenda is well defined, so people come prepared, and then they take off from that city and go somewhere else. I think the one thing we often forget about product marketing is unlike a digital marketing thing where you're directly looking at managing your campaigns and bids and whatnot, or as an event marketer where you're looking at how do you drive your events and take care of the funnel beyond that. I think product marketers' goal or product marketing as a function is all about how do you improve efficiency in your marketing? When you try to build on a campaign or an initiative without somebody having looked at your product from a product marketing lens, there's an added cost to it if you have to course correct, right? Because you already moved further off on that track, maybe with a wrong set of target audience, or maybe a wrong segmentation, or your wrong message itself in the first place.
Welcome back to the Marketing Couch. Thank you for your continued support and for being part of our growing community of B2B marketing professionals. This continues our festival special series where I'm bringing you conversations with some of the most accomplished B2B marketing leaders in India today. Today's guest is someone who has been with one company for an incredible 13 years, and coincidentally, he completed his 13th anniversary at his company on the very day we recorded this episode. My guest today is Praval Singh. He is the Vice President of Marketing and Customer Experience at Zoho, one of India's most respected global software companies, as you know, right? What makes Praval's story fascinating, though, is he's witnessed Zoho's remarkable transformation from a trend product company with 6 million users to a 55 plus product suite serving over now today 130 million users worldwide. Before joining Zoho, Praval co-founded and ran Media Redefine, a digital media agency that worked with brands like Samsung, Macromax, and Maruti Suzuki. In today's conversation, you will discover why product marketing is more critical than ever and how it prevents costly cascading failures across organizations. We discussed Zoho's unique approach to organic growth, how they build 55 plus products without a single acquisition. We also covered the privacy-first strategy that's become their competitive advantage in enterprise sales. And we also covered how they have successfully transitioned from SMB to enterprise while maintaining their core values. And if you stay till the end, Praval shares the DRI concept that solves cross functional alignment challenges and why Zoho deliberately avoids traditional marketing tactics like third party pixels. I'm grateful to Praval for sharing his insights from over a decade of building one of India's most iconic and respected software brands. If you find value in this conversation, please share it with your network and also with your friends. With that, I bring you Praval Singh. Hi, welcome Praval to the Marketing Couch.
Hi, Jadip. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Praval, I cannot say how excited I am to have you on the Marketing Couch podcast. Thank you so much for taking time. I'm sure today our episode is going to be very exciting. We are going to deep dive into many interesting areas of B2B marketing. But more importantly, the thing that I'm more excited about is you as a marketer. We are celebrating 13 years. You have spent 13 years at Zoho. And I'm glad that you just told me backstage that you have completed 13 years today. So it's a
Yeah.
great day to connect with you. Congratulations one more time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like I said, we were supposed to do this much earlier, but then there's a lot going on, as you and I know, at
Yes.
work primarily. And yeah, incidentally, it's my 13th anniversary at Zoho too. So officially a Zoho teenager is what I would say. But yeah.
And life just getting started, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So let's start from there, right? I mean, it is 13 years today that you joined Zoho. I guess it would be 2012, 6th of August, when you joined Zoho. And who would have thought that you would spend next 13 years glorifying years and more importantly working with a brand which we all respect, we connect with. I think it is such a synonymous brand, at least in last few years. There are so many touch points today and so many customers that I personally work with. They use Zoho, different products of Zoho, be it HR, finance, accounting, marketing, email, collaboration. I can just keep naming. And I guess it's 55 products. So I guess when you started, how many products were with Zoho at that time?
Yes, a lot has changed, as you said, obviously. To begin with, I had a lot more hair than you see today. Jokes aside, I think we had about 10 or 12 products when I joined. I remember vividly we had about 6 million users globally then. We crossed 130 million users last month. And
Wow.
yeah, we have more than 55 products today. And there's always something coming up from some corner or the other. So, a lot of our efforts go into building stuff in general. So, a lot of products have come out of the mere need of building for adjacency, right? So, you're solving a problem. How do you start to solve an adjacent problem? And so on and so forth. So, a lot of it was that. And again, like I joke about it with my friends often that it's very easy for me to sit here and tell a story looking back, and no matter what I say, I can make you believe that I came here for a 13-year stint. But honestly, none of that was the case. I had a small agency that I used to run with two good friends of mine for about 5 years, and then Zoho happened, and I came with an open mind to see how it plays out. And then yeah, I guess never look back, and here we are.
So 2012, I'm sure you and I remember that was a very different time as far as marketing is concerned. While the fundamentals have not changed, but there are a lot has changed, right? I mean, we know that. So how was 2020, 2012 when you joined Zoho? How did the industry look like? How did SaaS marketing, if at all SaaS marketing was really prevalent there at that time? I'm pretty sure there'll be very few globally. We of course knew bigger companies like Salesforce, which has been the epitome of at least SaaS, a cloud-born company, probably one of the first cloud-born native companies. From a marketing standpoint, you have seen a lot changing in last 13 years, right? How was it back then?
Yeah, so my background was, like I said, I ran an agency for about 5 years, and we were primarily working with consumer brands, the likes of Samsung and Maruti and Micromax and others.
What kind of
And
work your agency was doing at
it,
that time?
it was pretty much digital campaigns and offline activations and social media initiatives and things like that. It's a lot of quote unquote influencer engagement as well, even though the word influencer did not exist back then. So pretty much, I would say very consumerish in nature. We helped Samsung launch their first Galaxy phone in India. We helped Micromax bring the first Android device in India. In terms of how do we engage with people outside. So it was a very different kind of experience. And I never went to a B school. I mean, so I didn't come from a mindset and an exposure into thinking like an MBA student or a graduate, right? So it was everything we did was very self-learned, adapted, etc., etc. And when I landed into Zoho, obviously US was the primary market. SaaS was still, I would say, not very common in India. Our India initiatives were also not there. Most of what we were doing was for the global markets, primarily US, UK, Europe, etc. Just that what has changed between then and now is there's a lot more the reception towards looking at SaaS as an option. I mean, look at something like an accounting software today, right? We launched Zoho Books many years ago, but when the whole GST thing came up, we drove a massive campaign around the GST initiative. And Zoho Books, which is our accounting software, is one of the fastest growing products for us in terms of number of customers we acquire with it, right? Because people today are not thinking about using a SaaS based accounting software as much as they were 10 years ago. And that extends to everything. That extends to everything. In the SMB market, but also in the large enterprise market. In fact, we have a sister division called Manage Engine, where we do a lot of on-prem, on-cloud solutions both. The on-cloud adoption is crazy when we look at the numbers, you know. So even on the enterprise side, what I'm trying to say is adoption for SaaS is come a long way in the last 10 years. And that kind of explains the growth of companies like Zoho and others in this space. So yeah, I mean, the whole idea of l- having your business data and processes and operations on cloud is a lot more natural to all of us than it was 10 years ago, I would say, in India. And I think that is where the growth is coming from. All these developing nations, I would say, not just India, but we're seeing fast growth in Middle East and Africa region as well and elsewhere. Brazil is one of our another fast growing markets and so on and so forth.
So you started off with product marketing, if I'm correct, right?
Mhm.
And you were focusing on the US market,
Global, but yeah, primarily US. That was
primarily in the
that
US.
was the yeah, yeah.
Was there any specific product that you started off with, or what was that?
Yeah, so when I joined the company, I had background in building a social analytics product along with two co-founders of mine in the previous agency. So while we were running the agency, we were also building a product, right?
Okay.
We couldn't really go to market with it ever. We built it internally. We were using it for our clients for social analytics, but we could never really package it and take it out. As Paul Graham famously calls it, the ramen profitability problem, which is your money is coming from the agency business, but your heart is in the product, right? Which is not bringing any money. So we could never launch it, but that kind of sat with me for the longest time. And I think when I joined Zoho, it was still fresh on my mind. So I joined a team which now runs a product called Zoho Social. It is a social media management analytics um, product. So which is where I joined. The initial few years were working closely with the team and kind of taking the product to market, etc. But yeah, I transitioned off the team once we were out in the market. We got to a certain revenue threshold of I think $1 million or something like that, and then I moved on from that role. But yeah, the team is still kicking it and building and social is also one of our fastest growing products. Yeah.
So, and then you, I think, continued almost close to 7 years in product marketing, I think, managing different products.
Yeah, so one thing led to the other, and again, my role expanded into doing other things as well. So I still have a couple of products I work very closely with, but a lot of my time now and my team's time goes in a lot of brand-led initiatives today, and across everything from brand marketing, social newsletters that we send out to our customers every month, to events that we do, a lot of PR and AR initiatives in the country. It's kind of spread across now in different ways, and there are different teams, enterprise marketing as well, because we've been going up market lately. A lot of wins on that side, customer advocacy, etc. So yeah, this is now a broader portfolio, but yeah, that's how it has evolved in the last
So
10 odd years.
one of the reasons I'm asking this, Prabal, is that product marketing, at least in very recent past, they came under kind of scrutiny to say that how product marketing is really driving revenue for the organization, and therefore what is the ROI today, on product marketing side. And there are cases where there are layoff happened from product marketing in mass scale and so on, from some renowned companies in the recent past, right? Do you think somewhere product marketing is as a function is not able to sort of communicate the value that it drives for organization. To me, it's supremely important. The reason I'm asking this is because if your positioning messaging is fundamentally wrong, which means it has a cascading effect, be it on your sales side, your product, your customer experience side, your product roadmap side, because you might be getting wrong feedback from your wrong set of customers or the expectations that are set, and all of that, right? Therefore, it is fundamentally important to get that positioning and messaging right. And interestingly, position and messaging is not one time exercise, right? It continues to evolve as the business changes, as the landscape changes, as the dynamics of the market changes, right? And the competition changes in the external environment. So I just wanted to know, what is your thought on that?
So that's a good question, and comes up very often these days. And at conversations like these, to a lot of candidates who apply for jobs at Zoho and otherwise, and again, a lot of people I meet at events and a lot of B schools that I've been at to interact with students. I think the one thing we often forget about product marketing is, like, unlike a digital marketing thing where you're directly looking at managing your campaigns and bids and whatnot, or as an event marketer where you're looking at how do you drive your events and take care of the funnel beyond that. I think product marketers' goal, or product marketing as a function, is all about how do you improve efficiency in your marketing. And which goes back to what you said. When you try to build on a campaign or an initiative without somebody having looked at your product from a product marketing lens, there's an added cost to it if you have to course correct, right? Because you already moved further off on that track, maybe with a wrong set of target audience, or maybe a wrong segmentation, or your wrong message itself in the first place,
Or it
right?
might even damage the reputation of your brand.
Absolutely. If it goes that bad, it could be, yeah. I mean, so I think what is important is, and again, I'm not saying everybody can afford or should have a dedicated PMM. Oftentimes I've seen the PM, he or she would play that role as well as a PMM as well. And that's absolutely fine, as long as the PM has the understanding of the customer, the product, and the market, right? The three clear pillars to it, where you have to understand the customer. Why should they buy from you? What is a differentiator? What is a unique story that you're telling them? And when you're not in the room, how do they describe your product? Right? Sometimes you
Correct.
may be thinking that they're getting it, but they're not. So that's from the customer side. And product side, understanding everything from, let's say, the features that you have and the ones that you don't, and the workarounds for it. Let's say if it's a technical product, knowing the APIs and whatnot, how do you integrate with others, et cetera, et cetera. That's on the product side. And again, the type of customers, how do you segment them? Who are the people who are buying, or who are the gatekeepers in a company for your, and how does the buying cycle look like, and things like that from a customer persona. And then the market, which is basically everything, the dynamics of the market, the competition, how do media and analysts look at that market. So that having that understanding is not something that a digital marketer would typically have, or a field marketer would have, right? So I
Right.
think a lot of it has come down to how we define product marketing, and because it kind of varies in different ways. I did a session sometime back at a B school about just this. The faculties had requested me to come and talk about it from a first-hand experience, not from a book. And we had some very good conversations about it. That it's a lot about how do we articulate the PMM function, and different companies will take different versions of it, but there has to be some articulation on what the role itself is. And
Correct.
I think if we do that right, and it's not that difficult to see value in, right? I mean, it's not that. But yeah, oftentimes, unlike a digital marketing role, or a PM role, or a events or a field marketer role, PMM role often gets sidelined if it's not done well too. Also, we have to remember that this is a function that has come up in the last 10 years. I mean, I remember when I had joined Zoho, we had some PMMs already, but it was not a very widely existing role in the industry as such, right? I mean,
Yeah.
again, there
Yeah.
weren't too many SaaS companies of that scale either.
Yeah.
So a lot has come around because of the tailwinds SaaS has seen itself, and yeah, and it's a very interesting role, I would say. I mean, if I had
Yeah.
to go back and do it one other time, I would start with that again, because
Mm.
one of the beautiful parts of being a PMM is, you're sitting very close to the product, you're sitting very, very close to the customer and to the market. What else do you want in a tech company, right? I mean, you get to enjoy,
Absolutely.
and then you work with the marketing team, you work with the sales team, you work with the product teams, right? So it's a very good spot to be in, and a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
So I also started my career in product marketing in 2003 with
Hmm.
a startup called July Systems.
Mhm,
back in Bangalore.
mhm,
Later, they got acquired by Cisco. So at that time, I remember the role that I had was creating product collaterals,
mhm,
creating product demos, creating sales decks, and then
yeah,
doing a lot of sales enablement,
mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm,
But very closely working with the PMs on defining really the messaging and the value props.
yeah,
So I think, as you said rightly, this particular team sits very close to the product, the tech, the customer, and not to forget, understands probably the competitors well, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think all those four important pillars, any marketers probably is central, right? But do you think there are KPIs that really are right KPIs for product marketing, that today the right indicators that the team is really from an ROI standpoint purely, right?
See,
Um,
how do we measure, how I would look at a successful PMM is, typically there are release cycles for every product, right? I mean, you're launching something, you may have a quarterly, you may have an annual, you may have a biannual or whatever. I think that's when the PMM sit on a hot seat because you're trying to orchestrate too many things. A, you're working with the product team to make sure that you're engineering ready and then essentially ready to go to market for general availability. You're working with your design team and your web development team to make sure that your website, collaterals, landing page, whatever else you need is all ready. You're syncing up with the PR team as well if there's a media announcement and that angle involved as well. So there are too many moving pieces, and you're trying to orchestrate and bring all of it to a single date, which is on your calendar. And I've seen it from close quarters. I've failed miserably at it. I've kind of learned to do it well, I would say, over the years. But I think some of the best CMMs I would see, they really know how to orchestrate the release cycles. And it's very impactful. Within a week of launch, you know that something went well, be it from media coverage to analysts talking about it. I'll give you a small example. So let's say you're running up to a release. A good PMM almost always has some customer stories even ready even before the release. They will have that foresight to bring that customer story at the time of the release. And look at the best brands around us; they do it as well. I mean, it's cliched, but look at Apple announcing products. Right? I mean, when they announce a new fitness device, there will be some fitness enthusiasts and professionals who already been on their pilot. It doesn't happen magically; it's thought through. The same happens in the B2B.
Orchestrated, yeah.
Yeah, it's very well orchestrated, absolutely. And the same happens in the B2B SaaS space as well. And again, I think we as a company have come around to sort of learn and do it. There's still, I'm not saying we have kind of mastered it yet, but for most big releases, we work closely with the customers. We have the buy-in. We have them as, and again, when you work on a product that is not even released or ready for the customers, there are rough edges to take care of, right? And you work closely with the customer to make sure that they are satisfied to a point because obviously if a customer is not happy she's not going to say something positive about you, right, which is
Mm,
what you want
mm.
essentially. So all that orchestration of different moving pieces I think makes the role very very interesting. And to your question of how do we measure, or I mean I won't use the word KPI in the classic sense of it, but a series of good releases when they come from a team, the PMM is doing a good job. That's
Yeah.
how I look at it.
Yeah, and at Zoho, is AR is managed by respective PMMs, or is it centrally managed by the brand?
No, so we have a central team that manages both media and analyst relations, but they work with PMMs and PMs on the respective release because the domain knowledge comes from there. I mean, we are a
Correct.
company which does 55 different applications. No single person can have expertise in a CRM, in an HR space, in an accounting space, in an email space, in a project management space, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, this is a huge world. So the PMMs bring in that expertise,
The
both from the
category expertise.
yes, from a customer side, from a product side, from market side. And I think that again, like I said, makes the role so beautiful. Where you're spending so much time in doing your research, you're doing so much time in talking to customers, existing customers, old customers, new customers. You're going to events to talk to a lot of prospects. At the same area where you have competition next to you. It's a very interesting space to be in, I would say.
Yeah, no, true. So Zoho has so many aspects that I'm actually excited to talk about. One of them being scale, right? You said 6 millions when you started from a user standpoint, and
Yeah,
now it is 130 million.
more
So
than that.
that's
Yeah.
like staggering growth. What do you think probably are some of the top one or two drivers that got you that scale?
I think it's a mix of few things, obviously. It's a compound and then a compounding effect. Two or three things that come to my mind straight up is one, our approach and strategy of building. the entire suite of products, and not just one product, right? And again, we solve a problem and then we solve adjacent problems for you as a business, right? And that both depth and breadth together helps us in more ways than one. One is it increases stickiness. Let's say you became a customer for a product, you were happy, you were satisfied with what you were looking for, and then you discover another Zoho product, right?
Correct.
And then the third one and the fourth one, and then you discover one of our suites at a category level or at the Zoho level, what we have called Zoho One, right? Then you're pretty much running your entire organization on Zoho. Okay. And today, I'm very happy to say there's so many companies that run all on Zoho. Zoho runs on Zoho, by the way. Entire company of
I was actually
close
about
to
to ask you that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We entirely more than 18,000 employees today. Our entire operations run on Zoho. Everything we use is homegrown, so to say. And then there are companies with much bigger than us. We are about 18,000 users, but there are companies with tens of thousands of users on Zoho as well. So scale is not a problem. We have kind of cracked that, I would say, right? Number one. Now, how it helps us is a lot of opportunity for cross sell and upsell, and that kind of brings down your CAC. Your customer acquisition cost goes down because
Absolutely.
you're being able to
Yeah.
do that, and that's how
Yeah.
you're able to sustain affordable pricing.
Hmm.
I mean, a lot of
Hmm.
people ask, "Oh, why is Zoho so affordable? How are they able to do it?" I mean, it's not magic. If you kind of do a if you go an inch deep, you understand that being a company that has a broader set of products, a portfolio, everything with a single sign-on makes life easier for companies to manage their users across products, etc. Right? So that is one I would say.
Is your
Number
portfolio completely organically built, or is there a mix
Oh
of
yeah, we've
organic and?
not everything has been built from the ground up.
That's fantastic. I
Yeah,
mean,
we've not
seriously.
acquired companies to add. I mean, that's something that we were always very clear about. So I would say that is one of the most important things. The second is, of course, we always believed in charging a customer in the right way, and it has two aspects to it. One is how do we price our software? We deliberately kept the pricing a lot more affordable because that makes things adopt a lot easier. And when you go at the suite level where you have multiple products, when you look at something like Zoho One, I mean, I remember when we launched it, our approach was it'll cost you less than a cup of coffee for an employee that you would pay per day, right? And you get all of Zoho together. At the start, we had about 35, 40 applications. We now have more than 50 applications as part of Zoho One. Single subscription, single license. Okay. You can have your entire company on it, and it will cost you less than a cup of coffee a day, typically. So that was the launch thing that we made. And it was immensely successful because we realized that we don't want nickel and dime users, and we're able to bring that affordability in a few ways. One is, of course, premium pricing. Every product that we have has a free plan, a forever free plan, and even the free plan doesn't have any ads in them. So we're not trying to monetize a free user. That's something
Hmm.
we've always been very clear about. I mean, think about it. At 130 million user base, a flip of a switch could turn on a new revenue model for us, right? Which
Absolutely.
is which is ads. But as a company, we chose to leave that money at the table. We chose to be on the right side of the spectrum where we said that we don't want advertising to become our revenue source for our entire B2B offering that we, and that kind of has earned a lot of trust from us.
Hmm.
It used to be a trust from government institutions and BFSI companies, but now that is everywhere. Because both you and I value our privacy a lot more today than we did 10 years ago, just because we all evolved. Companies are seeing that as well. CIOs are seeing that as well. Business owners are seeing that as well. And for a company that has been on the right end of the spectrum for the longest of time, I think people value that. It took us a while to make us a strong, to have a strong stance on that that was visible. But now that thing is up on the wall. People notice it. Okay, and like I said, all good things take time. So it took a
Yeah.
while. It took a while to sort of people to understand and acknowledge it, but it happened.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's important.
And I think it seems that the growth is only ahead, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in terms of one of the observation that I had, I think when I sort of heard your other interviews, or I've done research on Zoho as such. One of the things I think is security, like you mentioned, is at the center. Privacy is something that we all care for, and that comes from Zoho's kind of indigenously built the entire unified tech stack, right?
Yeah.
Where you're completely independent. You've kept the company private, purposely, and there is a reason that allows you to do experiments, takes the off-road at times, doing exploration, bring in new innovations. So you have a lot more flexibility and agility to sort of do things at speed, right? But also at the same time doing for a long purpose, not for doing just for taking
Yeah, I mean,
shortcuts and
sometimes
cutting
do it for
corners.
speed, or sometimes even do it slowly.
Doing slowly, slow cook.
Yeah. I mean, you can. I mean, the fun part is, yeah. I mean, do a slow cooked meal versus something which is very instant, both, because that's what freedom brings you, right? And again, the idea of being private was to retain that freedom with us in terms
Correct.
of how you want to do it, how do we want to launch something, build something. And as you said, building the whole tech stack from ground up. And in fact, while it took long to build it, now it's bearing fruit now. You know, our platforms across all the five or six domains that we offer: customer experience, employee experience, finance, productivity, collaboration, your ITSM. All these platforms are now ready, matured, evolved, and we're able to work with largest of brands across BFSI, across automobile, across healthcare, different industries and companies, to do a lot of co-creation with them on the platform, right? We're able to
Mm,
build customized offerings with them, for them, and all that is only possible because we were able to build that platform from ground up. Okay, and every product was built, using some common layers, and I think that is now bearing fruit, I would say, and it's very important. And as you said, privacy and security, it definitely is very core to us,
mm, mm.
and we've kept it that way across. Our customer data is sacred for us. We don't want to monetize customers' data. That's something that's we've been very, very clear about.
And which is one of the reasons probably you stayed away from advertising revenue as well.
Exactly. Yeah, because we don't, in fact, if you come to my website, if you go to zoho.com, forget about using your data or any of that. There's not even a single third-party pixel that will fire up. So if you come to Zoho.com, only Zoho knows that you visited, not a third party. We're not trying to fire a pixel to do something else elsewhere. If you ask me, does it mean we take a hit because of that lack of last mile visibility in your conversion funnel? Yes, we do. Right.
Can you help me understand, Praval, what is the go-to market as such for Zoho? Is there a partner play as well? And how does that play out overall from a go-to market standpoint?
So yeah, it's a mix of our the company-led initiatives that we do across regions and channel-led too. So if you look at how it was 10, 15 years ago when I had joined, certain regions were very, very heavily channel-driven for obvious reasons. Let's say Europe, right? We didn't have our presence there. Our partners did a wonderful job of taking us to the market. We had some localization in place, obviously, at the product level and at the messaging website level as well. But the last mile acquisition, understanding, even things like which event should we go to, etc., was all supported from here, but partners were driving it very heavily. Interestingly, they still do. Even though we have now presence in multiple countries in Europe now, okay, we have offices and presence and whatnot. But I think what it has, and a lot of people ask this question that, oh, for the longest time, you've had channel partners working in the region. Now you're going to go there and open up shop and take away their business. But that was never the goal. The idea was, how do we do better together when we are there physically as well? Then we all have skin in the game. And then a large deal, let's say a customer is bringing in, a customer can have a Zoho representative tag along. So
And
it
it builds a lot
adds.
of confidence as well, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that playbook, I think we've been able to replicate across three regions. We have now offices and presence in multiple countries in the Europe and UK region, pretty much everywhere. Middle East, South Africa. We've had our presence for the longest time in China and Japan. Australia, we have presence. South America, in different countries, we have our presence now. And again, Southeast Asia as well, Singapore, Philippines, some of the other areas around the Southeast Asian countries, I would say. So a lot of on ground presence now, I would say. We have employees. And those employees, actually, those teams focus on a lot of customer led initiatives, very customer facing teams. We're not doing R&D and engineering there for the most part. All that is pretty much still in India, I would say. But a lot of customer facing roles are there now: sales, marketing, pre sales, solutioning, all of that. And that's now, so, and that kind of also partner support, partner managers, they are also local. So they help the local channel grow as well. So that's how the overall GTM is orchestrated from a regional side. But again, from if you look at it otherwise, it's very digital heavy in terms of how we acquire customers. But also, you would have seen lately, especially in key markets, a lot of offline presence too, be
Yeah,
it
yeah,
billboards, airport ads, airline ads. We would do an
huge.
occasional print ads too.
Yeah, yeah. I think
So
I
I think,
messaged in one of your posts. I was coming home one evening. This was just after this full page ad that
yeah,
you
you did.
did,
I remember that. I remember that.
and I was taking turn, and there was this big huge digital kiosk next to a petrol pump that was running the same ad
Yeah,
of Zoho, and I was like, "Wow!" I mean, it has reached all the way to my home, almost
yeah,
close to my home, right? So
yeah. A lot of messages to me now are about people spotting this here and
yeah,
there,
yeah, and I think
and
that's a
then sending
part
it
of
over.
that.
Yeah. Oh, it's a
I think
beautiful feeling too. It's a beautiful feeling too to see. In fact, the other day, a friend of mine, who's the CMO at Kindle, he was in New York. He saw an ad and sent a picture saying that it feels so surreal to sort of see a large Indian brand here in New York at Times Square on a cab. It feels very home, very Indian,
and
very
very proud
proud,
too, right?
very
Yeah,
proud. Yes. So
absolutely.
yeah, when you get a random message like that middle of the day, it brings you a smile, right? And I think
Yeah,
that's priceless.
and it reminds you, why you are doing what you're doing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Praval, one of the major shift that I saw, and at least if I'm not sure if this was my perception, at least 7, 8 years ago, my perception was Zoho was predominantly for SMB, but I see a big enterprise movement of late. Was it
Mhm.
deliberate, and how did that happen? And did marketing play a role in pushing
No,
this?
it's a good question and very timely as well, I would say, Jaideep. I'll open it up very honestly of how it happened. So you're right, we're very SMB heavy for the longest time. We still are very SMB heavy. We're not leaving that market, leaving that space at all. Very clear about it. But what happened in the last 5, 7 years, I would say, is a lot of our products matured. CRM, which is one of our flagship offering, to this year is completing 20 years. Now imagine that 20 years of building a product, right? Interestingly, the PM who started the product is still the PM for the product. Just imagine the core team is still there. You extend that from our CRM solution to our email solution. The PM who was there at the beginning, she's still leading that team. Now that's the compounding effect. That's the power of why good things take time and when you people are still around. So what happened was over these years, these products have matured a lot. Okay, we were able to cater to more complex needs of a larger organization as compared to, I would say, slightly more simplified needs of a small business. And everything from product capability standpoint, integration standpoint, APIs, compliance, all that evolved to serve the needs of larger companies. And again, while all this was happening, marketing was playing its role as well to build a brand which is a proud made in India, made for the world company, right? Very proud, very, the OG SaaS company from India that put Chennai on the global map, I would say, right?
Absolutely.
Um, all those narratives were also sticking around, right? And then we started seeing curiosity and interest coming in from CIOs of large companies that, hey, you guys are very R&D focused, your privacy is sorted, you seem to have a decent enough portfolio of products. Can we do something together? And to be honest, we were not even ready internally in terms of our sales alignment and things like that, right? Early on. So we did a few putting people together on a project, working with the customer, and we pulled it off. And then we realized that, okay, this is it. And then during that course, we also intently decided that we're going to go after the biggest of companies that are often, I would say, charging obnoxiously high for both software and implementation. So we took a step where we said, we're going to simplify this. We have a solid platform that's taking shape. We have capability across the breadth and the depth that we have created. And thanks to the platform and the low code, no code tools, our implementation time is very, very low as compared to a lot of other tools. And we have proved it. We've done enough research around it. We did a study with the IDC some time back to sort of bring out the value of how is the market reacting to it? Like, is implementation delay a real issue in the market or not? We
Hmm.
commissioned a study with them, with independent, and it was very obvious that the kind of impact implementation delays, and both in terms of cost and time, is adding up. The CIOs are not very happy about it, right? So we took a plunge that, okay, we're going to work on this both in terms of software and licensing as well as implementation. Thanks to our platform and the low code, no code tools, we would simplify all of this and then build everything from building a dealer management system for one of the largest automobile companies to building a loan originating system for a large BFSI brand. We did all of it, co-creation, building together, going to market together, doing joint press releases. We've done all of it in the last 3, 4, 5 years. So I think that progression, and again, what also happened alongside is we staffed ourselves accordingly.
Hmm.
Everything from our enterprise business solutions team, which does a lot of consulting, advisory, implementation, because they come with that kind of experience, having worked with the largest of GSIs in the world.
So
Okay.
is the current implementation parties with Zoho, or their partners
We
also doing
have
that?
multiple ways of engagement. So a large company can choose to work with their in-house team if they want to. They can choose to work with our implementation team, which is like a large SI, but in-house. That's also
Got
an
it.
option. Or they
Like
could work
professional
with,
services.
yes, or they could work, yeah, we have a professional services team as well. Or they could work with a large SI that they're already working with. So all routes are open. So channel, partner, in-house, and working with Zoho. So we have all options open, and we have engagements across all of these types.
Okay, because I used to run customer success for MoEngage, which is
Mhm,
one of the
mhm,
leading startups in customer engagement platform space. And prior to that, for some time, I also ran customer success at Adobe. One of the reasons of project or implementation churn that we have seen is that the implementation going off track. What happens is that it not only sort of, so it has a cascading or a ripple effect. So it spoils your brand reputation. Customer, as a marketing team, the promises that you made to the customers in terms of advanced features and so on, if the customer is struggling with basic implementation with basic features, they never reach to the advanced functionalities and features, so they never realize the total value of the product. So many of these reasons actually restrict people to get the full realization or the benefits from their investment. Therefore, I think implementation part, which I think what you said is that to control of, is such an important piece
mhm.
of the enterprise product suite, right?
I
um,
mean, take something very simple, straightforward as change management, right? Let's
oh
say you're
yeah.
working in the BFSI domain. SEBI rules out a new guideline or some policy change or whatever. How quickly can your customer essentially roll that change out in their system, right? I mean, does it require hundreds and thousands of lines of code, or the platform has low code, no code capabilities that would speed up that? And we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen during the course of working with a new customer. This is not a random example. I'm saying it from, we saw this happen. We were working with a large BFSI, something changed. We were able to roll it out with the low code, no code tools on that deployment. And then when you do that, you kind of bringing that aha moment for the customer, right?
Mm,
And
mm.
then also imbibing confidence in him or her that tomorrow, when we are up and running with this, a similar thing comes up, we would be able to deal with it. I think all of that is now sticking on the wall, and large customers are taking a notice of it. Yeah.
So, Praval, I have seen and noticed last 3, 4 months, 5 months, there were a lot of events that you guys have done, right? For different communities, different cities, different audience, partners, customers, enthusiasts. I think there's a whole gamut of activities and events, and along with that, a lot of press, a lot of ATL advertising, everything, which is unlike of Zoho, right? I mean, I haven't seen that scale probably, or I've not noticed that. Now, events is definitely one thing that I took note of this time. So, what role events play in marketing at Zoho?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you think I'm still looking tired, it's because of those events that we wrapped up 3 weeks ago.
Frankly, I was
But
hesitant to even ask you for this discussion because I knew that you'll be so tired constantly.
no, I mean, we wrapped it up a few weeks ago, so very happy and very grateful to the whole team that came together to pull these events off. But to your question, so we do different kinds of events, okay? One is events where we participate or exhibit, just like any vendor. You go to a conference, you exhibit, you
Trade
speak, you're on a
shows, yeah,
panel or whatever, trade
yeah.
shows. The other is we do community events, and we do hundreds of them every year. Those are essentially
Can you break it up a
city-wise.
little bit about community? Because I know you
Yeah,
have spoken about
yeah.
community, but I really want our viewers to understand the breadth and depth of what you mean here by
Sure.
community.
So again, at Zoho, the community initiative is very, very powerful and something we've had our heart and soul put to. My colleague Vidya, she drives the whole initiative globally, and so her team is always on the go. We are doing a community meetup in some city pretty much every other day. Okay, it's like a short, it's like a half a day thing, a small team of 2, 3 people parachuting into a city so that we keep it low key in terms of costs and operations and whatnot. A very clear agenda, working with local community champions and partners to put together a crowd of 50, 70, 100 people, depending on the city and the size, etc. And then we educate them about existing products, their usage, their challenges if there are any. The agenda is well defined, so people come prepared, and then they take off from that city and go somewhere else. So we've been
So
doing
it's
it
like
for
a
so.
repeatable format,
It's a
right?
format. Yeah, the content
To
changes, the
get the
engagement changes, what we talk about changes because we have multiple products, right?
correct.
But the format is the same. It's
Hmm.
repeatable, as you said, very efficient, and customers love it. When you land in a city where, because Zoholics, the events that you are mentioning, is an annual affair. It's a 2,000 people event. You can't keep doing it very often. It's very intense, and it takes a village to pull it off, right? Has its own reasons and purpose. Obviously, it's a flagship conference. We announce new things, get customers to schedule one-on-one with our experts. People essentially get to meet the team that builds the products that they use every day. Okay, so there's a lot of emotional connect as well, both from a culture
High
standpoint.
touch.
It's yes, and they get to meet everybody from the CEO to the product manager, right, at an event. And it's a very wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling. It's a very good feeling about you are not just talking to a wall. You're actually meeting people who are building the products day in day out that you use every day at work. Okay. So yeah, it's a bit of celebration, bit of launches, bit of customer engagement. Partners come there as well, so they find value in being there as well. And then we don't limit it to one event. We have the customer event, which is Zoholics. We do our annual partner summit where we get about 200, 300 partners, top partners to come. We work with them on announcing new things, handling their questions and concerns, and so on and so forth. That's that. And then we have our enterprise summit, something we started a couple of years last year, actually. This is the second edition of enterprise focus engagement, where we bring in some existing customers, some prospects who are interested in understanding more about Zoho, about 35, 40 top analysts from the country. It's a mixed group of about 175, 200 people with our enterprise dialogues and engagements with the leadership. So that was the third event. The fourth one was a
Hmm.
press conference where we announced our LLM capabilities and what we're doing in that direction. So it was a week full of engagement with different set of stakeholders and audiences. But that's like once a year. Okay. The community stuff happens all through the year. Our participation at trade shows, etc., happens all through the year. And the trade shows are very, very product driven. So the PMM, we spoke about the PMM function. Just to refer to that, PMMs still decide the events that they should go to. Okay? Because again, they understand the product, the customer, the market. They're the best judges of which event should they participate in what capacity. There are central teams like my events team that will help them, enable them, champion for them, negotiate for them, make sure that the event goes well from an experience perspective. But which events to go to generally, they are the stakeholders, so we work with the PMMs on that. So yeah,
And
these
do
are some
you
of these.
do events internationally as well?
Oh, yeah. It's pretty much in all major countries. Similar, whatever I said happens pretty much in every country. All Zoholics, trade shows, everything, community meetups of a different scale, obviously. The US one is probably as big as India, if not bigger. Then there are others where are smaller. Smallest of Zoholics could be a 120 people event in a emerging new country that we are in. The biggest of Zoholics could be a 2,000 people event, like one in India.
So typically for enterprise marketing, events
Mhm.
has always played an important role in terms of driving the really the leads bucket, right? It is
Mhm.
the engine predominantly for enterprise lead generation, especially events like summit you mentioned, right? Or
Mhm.
self-hosted events, or even for that matter, Zoholix and so on. Some of it is completely new leads. Some of these are a lot more like cross-sell kind of leads
Customer event, yeah,
that come
yeah,
customer
yeah,
events.
yeah.
So, is that also an objective, like demand gen and lead gen, as part of the
Yeah,
format?
so Zoholics typically is a user conference. Everybody, pretty much, I would say about 85% people are existing
User.
customers. The 15% are people who are like well-wishers, who want to be there or are on the fence of deciding on something Zoho, want to meet the leadership, have some questions. Some of them are just people who love us and want to be there at the event. We don't stop them from coming, obviously, but it's primarily a user conference. The content, the agenda is very focused on you get the maximum value from Zoholics if you are an existing user. As simple as that. But that doesn't mean if you're not, there's nothing for you. So that's a mix of people we get as Zoholics. But the trade shows are 100% lead gen, I would say. Our enterprise summit is a mix of lead gen and meeting existing customers both. So we do a fair mix of lead gen and customer. Community events are primarily community existing users, right? But oftentimes we encourage users to bring somebody, bring a friend along. So let's say you're a you're running a chiropractic business somewhere, right? Or you are into some kind of refrigeration business, right? And you are a Zoho user for whatever products. We encourage you to bring a friend along. right? From the same industry, from your neighborhood, family, whatever. People do that, you know. So that also happens, but again, that's not the primary reason we do
Okay.
community events. Yeah. So, but it's a mix of all of these. Yeah.
Got it. And do you do ABM for your enterprise customers?
Yeah, so we've actually, again, one thing to highlight there is we don't do ABM in a classic sense of how a lot of companies do it, wherein they would
Mm.
take a CRM, pick up a LSN or a third-party tool, plug their CRM into it, upload all
Mm.
customer data, do the intelligence, do the lookalike. We cannot do that. Our customer data is sacred. Our CRM is not plugged to any third-party system, right? So that definitely means there is something I mentioned earlier where you lose that last mile
Mm.
visibility, and that's the cost that we pay as marketers. But that's something that we've decided as a company. But everything from enrichment and all that, account-based understanding, we use that. And again, a lot of ABM is now, I would say, quote unquote, manual in terms of the accounts you want to reach out to. But
Mm.
we use tools like LinkedIn and everything else to sort of reach out to target accounts, target personas, etc., etc. Yeah.
Okay. So, in
Mhm.
terms of a overall demand system engine, how would you sort of put that? What are your key demand system engine? Does it start from like top of the funnel,
Sure.
digital?
Sure. So broadly, very content heavy in terms of the content that we create, educational, informative, all kinds. Everything from an ebook to a landing page to what you may have. And then search heavy, obviously, right? So you run SEM campaigns, you create those pages and funnels on based on needs and intent and all of that to build that pipeline. Then from an offline standpoint, you are at the right events, you're meeting the right kind of people as well. Then there is a whole ecosystem of our marketplace, which has more than 2,000 extensions today, which is all third party plugging into it. So their customers become your customers become their, I mean, all that also happens a lot. And then we have a couple of initiatives which are kind of very useful and interesting. One is our wallet initiative, which is for referrals. A customer refers another
Mhm.
customer and gets paid for it. So think about it, a B2C flavor to a B2B thing, right?
Yep. Yep.
And again, you don't have to be an affiliate marketer to do that. We have a separate affiliate program too, which is for hardcore affiliates. But even a customer, we call it a P2B referral. We have that as well. And again, when you talk about 130 million users, not a large base, right? So, and we can do that without hurting anybody's privacy and any of that, right? I mean, it's a clean referral program that we have for customers. Similarly, we have initiatives for MSMEs. We partner with a lot of MSME organizations where we give them wallet credits to come and try. We have a program called Zoho for Startups, where if you are a registered startup and we give you credits worth close to 2 lakh rupees to sort of come on board and try. If you've never been a Zoho customer before, you qualify for that. There's a list of parameters to qualify.
More like
You
an
get to
accelerator program kind of thing.
exactly. And that
Mm.
program has been around for so long now. Right? I think
Mm. Mm.
2018 or 2017 is when we kicked it off. So these all programs again kind of bring in people to the funnel and we work and the teams that manage those relationships and this thing. But yeah, very digital heavy, some events, some offline partnerships, like I mentioned, the marketplace, the startups programs. It's a multi-channel approach, I would say. And we already discussed from the advertising standpoint, we do all digital, offline, print, radio, train stations, whatnot. So it's a full spectrum of this thing that I would say we.
And I know that you mentioned in multiple places that your R&D spend is three times higher than your marketing spend, if I'm not
Oh yeah.
wrong,
hmm
right?
hmm hmm
So obviously, which means you're also very mindful about your spend in terms of
hmm
media, and obviously, digital gives you that scale. But at the same time, I think the brand narrative that you're building currently, which I think is very essential to sort of bring everything together
Yeah.
and connecting with the type of market that you are going after, right? So, in terms of the fact that you have so many products, like 55 plus products, how do you really unify that into a bigger brand story? Because I think that is something that you personally lead, and
Yeah.
that's one of the big charter that I guess you have, right, for Zoho.
No, that's a very good question and one of the biggest challenges as well. So the question is, people now know there's Zoho, right? That's one part of it. Again, it's a company which has unique set of values, is known for doing things differently, known for playing the long game, all of that. But how is Zoho relevant for me as a chiropractor versus as a doctor versus a CIO of a large automobile company? How do you get that persona mapping is something that we're very particular about, right? And To be honest with you, it's very easy to get lost in the sea of so many products. And again, with two or three or five products, you kind of are able to differentiate very well. But certain products are overlapping by the nature of it. A lot of low code, no code tools are overlapping based on what you want to do from them. I mean, you could build a CRM on our low code platform too, by the way. But would you do that, or would you rather use our CRM,
Correct,
which again
correct,
is a platform? So
correct.
it's very nuanced, right?
Yeah, and in some form or part, we have seen that this you cannot completely stay away from that cannibalization effect,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah, of course,
So
right? And
it's
again,
a
when people internally also debate about it, why are we building this when we already have that? I mean, the short answer to that is if you don't build it, somebody else will anyway build it. How do you stop that, right? So we have to be smart about it. And that is why, again, to your first question on this call, why is a PMM role important, right? How do you define who you are, what you are, and who you are for is very, very important. And as that, as you walk on that path of cannibalization with more products, PMM becomes even more critical. But yeah, to your question, we're trying to build this narrative around Zoho could mean different things for different people. But essentially, the underlying theme is you could run your business on Zoho. And that's one of the initiatives we did with Zoho Runs on Zoho, right? That's something that we came up with where we said, like, the whole organization can run on this across functions. So your HR team, your sales team, your back office team, your accounting team, all of that can sit here and data can seamlessly flow between apps with permissions. I mean, imagine, and again, there's a lot of chatter around search, right? Enterprise search is one of the most complicated beasts. We all know that. The biggest of
yep,
companies that cracked consumer search, like Google, struggle in enterprise search, right? Because
absolutely,
it's so difficult inherently. Your data is spread across, then
yep,
there are permissions. I mean, a small thing like if you are my boss, I shouldn't be able to see your salary, whereas you should be able to search for mine. These are permissions that come from something like, let's say, from a directory, right? So, how do you bring in that directory layer, that permission layer, that privacy layer into every search while making it fast at scale, right? So we've built all that from the ground up. We've built all that from the ground up. We have our own directory, we have our own search. Now the AI piece is coming into the whole thing. So all that orchestrated together, I think where the value is. When customers have started to unlock that. Now we are telling the story a lot more of how Zoho is relevant for you, depending on who you are, based on your persona, and you'll see more initiatives coming out of the bag very soon now. So yeah, from a
so
marketing standpoint.
Praval, at this stage, so we spoke about the power of community. We spoke about events. We spoke about digital. We spoke about AI, sorry, AR, and PR and brand. So, can you help me now understand what is your charter overall, and how does the organization structure looks like?
Yeah, I mean, that's a slightly complicated question because, to be honest, we are very loosely structured to begin with,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And again, as we have so many products, so many teams, let's start with the product, right? So typically, a product will have at least one product marketer, at least one.
mhm.
Okay. Early days, you get one person, a content person, a product marketing person, or whatever. They'll work with central teams on their assets, web page, email, or whatever. The central teams. Think of them as internal agencies. Okay.
So when you say central team, this is your like a creative
Yeah,
team.
it's a creative team that is central. And we don't have one, we have three or four of them, actually.
Okay,
So you can
okay,
choose to work with whoever you want based on their bandwidth, your interest, your alignment. It's very flexible that way.
got it.
Okay.
And your digital marketing, without losing the thread of what we're
Yeah,
discussing,
I'll come to
is
that as
that
well. I'll come
okay?
to that as well. Yeah.
Okay,
So this is the creative side of it. Okay.
okay,
You are a PMM, you are a content person with a product, you work with the PM team in articulating your go-to-market, your launch strategy, all that. You work with the central creative team to get the assets up. You work with the PR team, which is regional now. It was not back in the day, but now it is very regional.
okay,
You give a heads up to the PR person on what we are launching. How do we you work with them on the PR plan, etc. PR. You similarly work with a digital team as well on your campaigns. There are a couple of teams for that as well, right? So
and
one
that's
team
also
will,
a horizontal team.
yes, that's a horizontal team, and the team manages different products as their customers. It's like a customer agency relationship within the company. Think of it that way.
Got it.
And then PMM typically reports into the PM or to one of the other senior marketers. So some PMM still report into me, some don't.
Okay, okay,
Some may report into some other senior marketer. Some may report into the PM herself. Okay, so it's a mixed bag, honestly speaking. Because honestly, if you look at it, there's no way one person, or anybody for that matter, can have visibility into 55 different products
absolutely.
and areas.
Unless you
Each of them,
decentralize this, yeah.
yeah, I mean, their own product, their customer, competition, the market, it's huge. I mean, even if you are able to master one of them, I would say it's an achievement, right? To be able to.
It's like it's an own universe,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah. So each of these teams, we joke about it like every team is like a startup of its own, right?
True,
We kind of
true.
have a common pool of resources and things like that, and there's of course agreement and then there are some administrative and policy stuff as well. Like I mean, like signing contracts for that matter, approving budgets, etc. For that matter, those things we keep centralized. And again, all that is a ratio of your revenue for the product, right? So we have a central team that manages all of that as well, so that nobody is trying to overshoot what is allocated to them. So it's there are checks and balances in place, but nothing is too finely controlled, I would say. That's the DNA of the company. We love to decentralize responsibility to the last mile.
Mm,
We want people to work in a very autonomous manner. You empower them, you decentralize responsibilities. With responsibility, you also decentralize control. Okay.
mm.
You have those, guardrails, but you don't try to micromanage. That's something we don't do at the company at any role for that matter, not just marketing. And I think it
Okay.
starts to work. There are obviously times when something will fail, an odd, instance of something, be it a person-led or a team-led or a product-led, an opportunity lost. All that happens, but then the mechanism is to sort of course correct that.
Mm,
And
mm.
so PMMs work at the product level. They have central teams like the events team and the PR team and the creative team and the digital team to help them as internal agencies do their job.
Got
Okay.
it.
And then
Okay.
we also have the brand team, obviously, that works very closely with me.
Mm,
They're also like a PMM, but the product itself is the brand. Right?
mm,
So
mm.
think of it that way, I would say.
Correct, correct,
Yeah.
correct. No, I understood. And where are you with respect to your AI journey as of today?
I'm sorry, I lost you.
Where are you with respect to your AI journey? I mean, have you been exploring anything?
Yeah, so see, we've been playing with tools, and again, tools are all of those that once you and I know of play with.
Correct.
Both from a marketing standpoint, teams are playing it. We have a lot of freedom. People can get a license and play with it. Our own homegrown Zia is also now baked into many of our products. So you're writing an email, it'll help you write better. You're trying to distill a report, it'll do that for you in an automated manner. Things like that, and we've been at it for a while. But what we announced recently, our Zia LLM, that offering is coming up where we will see a lot of business related AI empowerment within our products, taking care
Mm.
of privacy, the search that we spoke about, the permission, the directory, all that is in
So
is
will it also have like domain intelligence and so on?
Yeah, so we're trying to bring that in step by step in a way where, for now, we're bringing that only within the Zoho ecosystem, our own
Got
this
it.
thing. But the idea is to see how we open it up. Right? And again, the customer will have the choice to bring in their own keys. You want to plug in a third-party LLM, you can still do that. And that's already happening, by the way. It's already
Mm.
we rolled out those integrations right after the wave started. So customers
Mm.
are already doing it, but we want to build our
Mm.
own as well, which will be more secure, more private, more cost efficient, I would say as well. So that is where we are. But again, I would say we're using these tools here and there. But again, I won't say like it has not replaced a person yet. I would say this is more of augmentation for automation, for summarization, for helping people write better, respond better, things like that. But again, we're
Understood.
not seeing AI taking away jobs for sure. At least that's not happened, is what I would say.
Understood. So, one of the important questions that I wanted to touch upon is that in many organizations, a marketing is slowly but gradually is being pushed to go closer to the revenue and own revenue in some or other sense,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm,
Earlier, as we all know, like, we were happy doing MQLs, downloads, and form fill ups and so on. But from
mhm,
there on, today, I think many CEOs are pushing that marketing to take up more of ownership on the revenue side and see that. And I know some people, some of my friends in the industry are exploring digital sales is one of the ways, or creating an engine that where at least in the startup or SMB side able to close some of these online and
mhm,
therefore directly have a hand on at least a
mhm,
revenue stream and so on. Any
mhm.
thoughts you have, not at necessarily Zoho level but overall?
No, I mean, the fact that you mentioned digital sales, I mean, a dear friend of mine, CMO at Airtel Business, he had set up the whole DSG at Airtel. And again, I had the opportunity to meet him and his team at their office. And what a wonderful setup, in terms of what they've been able to achieve and close, and I think, and again, he's a marketer who takes a lot of pride
Correct,
in,
correct. Yeah. I mean, I spoke to
so,
him too recently and he did highlight that. In fact,
Okay,
I'll be
yeah,
speaking formally here on my couch as well.
nice,
But
nice.
yeah, I mean that's one of the this thing definitely yes.
No, it's happening. I mean, we are seeing it happen more often than earlier. Also, the caveat there is the nature of the business and the product as well, and also the way you're organized. So, for example, we already have sales teams that are, again, as much as we would want the flywheel to run without a high touch, again, typical SaaS adoption, because what we're talking about there in his case is different from this SaaS business,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
There's this, I mean, there you have your last mile connectivity and on-site presence, all that. Here, we've been selling globally without having a person in the country to begin with back in the day. Okay, now we have set up
True.
offices, etc. So it's very, very low touch. SaaS is slightly
Correct.
different that way. So
Correct.
if your marketing engine is efficient enough, okay, then and if the say again, look at this way, if the entire, I mean, you can just put a filter and a report where you see if a lead close into business without a salesperson having to talk to the customer, who do you attribute that business to? Marketing, right?
Correct.
If it was all about attending an event, all touch points, let's say attended a webinar, came for a show or an event, signed up, trialed, whatever. Essentially, and that's what product-led growth was all about, right? I mean,
Yep.
how the product and marketing come together to create that flywheel where the sales is not involved. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to say that sales is not involved in any. Sales are involved definitely, and as it gets more complex, bigger, sales will have to be involved. They are involved. But a lot of deals, I would say, in the SMB space today, a lot of customers
Heavily
today buy
marketing
Zoho.
influenced. Yeah.
Yeah, today a lot of customers buy Zoho products without even picking up their phone and talking to one of us. All that is attributed to marketing anyway.
That
So
is
in
true.
in B2B SaaS, especially in the SMB space, I would say slightly different than a DSG setup. But there are ways to learn from that and incorporate as well, is what I've also been thinking about. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. So, part of your title also says customer experience. Can you share a little bit about what is
Yeah,
customer
I mean,
experience here?
honestly, yeah, that's a good question. And again, sometimes I also wonder what more can we do on that part. But a lot of it is essentially meeting with a lot of customers and prospects and people who we work with, both on the channel side, customer side, media and analyst side, or what can we do better, right? And it could be as simplest thing when someone escalates something on social media about an experience they may have had with us, with a partner, with an integration, with a deployment, with an event. A lot of it is just understanding where is the pulse, where is the pulse of, a prospect or a customer or a well-wisher related to us. It's not very, uh, I would say, built that way in terms of what
Mm,
I do. But it's
mm,
more that anything and everything we can do to elevate experience and what more experiences can we create for
mm,
customers, both online and offline, is something
mm,
that, again, this was close to my interest and passion of, be it creating one of our largest user events to thinking of more ways of offline engagement with customers. How can we do that?
mm,
I mean, think about an idea where before taking a flight, if you have something to sort out with us or an idea or a question, is there a way I can meet you for a cup of coffee before you take the flight as an experience, right? Would you
yep.
like that?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
So those are things and areas where, I think very deeply about how can we do non-traditional stuff in an otherwise traditional SaaS play that we all know. So, and a lot of things that you've seen, I mean, people often wonder that, well, how do we, it's unusual to see a Zoho full page ad on a print this thing or at an airline or again, within that also, we are trying different mediums and formats. You would have seen on social media, people sharing all of that.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah. I
experiences that
think
people
I've seen
remember.
small format pamphlets with meals,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah,
behind the
yeah,
seats and so on. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, how do we experiment with more of these that people
Mm,
really look at it and smile,
mm,
um, and remember us for the longest time is what I think experience is also all about. It's not just about customer support. I mean, that for that there's a team. There's a team which is mapped to every product, and if you have a challenge with support, the team takes care of it. And again, not trying to say it doesn't get escalated now every now and then. It does happen. Escalations come in. We route the team. The team takes care of those requests. But how do we create more memorable instances for people to remember us in ways through online and offline mediums is I think something which is very, very interesting and helps elevate the customer experience beyond just the product itself, which there are 10 ways of doing it from integration to onboarding to customer success and support. Sometimes just the usability itself, right? How do you elevate the experience of using a product itself? And for that, product teams are doing their job on it. But beyond that, for a brand, what does the experience really mean when a customer or a prospect or a well-wisher comes across us is something that keeps us awake as well. Yeah.
One of the ways I feel the B2B marketer enterprises buy B2B products can be obviously very overwhelming, considering that there's so much of options in terms of in the market. But even before that, they have so many other ways to sort of solve that problem. Maybe doing it through their own in-house talent, build up something ground up, or use the low code, no code kind of a platform, build something on that, use their existing whatever options they have and put together something. So there are multiple ways actually. While we like to think that customer first think of getting up in the morning and think of, I want to buy a CRM or I want to buy a HR software, that is not really the way customers think, right? Customers
Hmm.
think that, how do I close my seal my revenue leakage from the pipe, right? That's my
Hmm.
problem.
Hmm.
I'm thinking multiple ways to solve that before even I think of buying a software, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it is interesting that how do we enable from a customer experience perspective in some way, like create a buyer's guide in terms of what really is you have when you, but starting with the problem, not with the solution.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because the
No,
solution,
in fact, what you just said sits very close to what our entire enterprise strategy is. I mean, the way we are looking at it is because ultimately it's the same set of products. It's the engagement model and the complexity that differs. And more often than not, a large company, when they reach out to us or when we're engaging with them, they have a problem. And that problem could be solved using a Zoho product, using a third-party product, using a mix of things. You maybe integrating with a Zoho product with their current on-prem, on-cloud solution could be a it's very nuanced, and it's a solution. And that's the reason why there's a lot of listening required and understanding and consulting, advisory, whatever, in terms of how you craft that solution. Oftentimes we co-create solutions together. We bring the technology, they bring the domain expertise. We've done it for so many customers, right? So it's more nuanced and complex in a large enterprise case. And again, the way we are starting to solve for verticals now, I gave two examples already, the BFSI and the
correct.
automobile space, but we're expanding into more areas and do a lot more with directly with channel partners in the next several months. I think it's important that what you said of the problem solution approach is where it sits. And again, not a rocket science, not something we claim we invented, but just to be mindful of, that's the approach. And again, our entire enterprise approach is exactly that.
So, Praval, one of the things I personally face that challenge, and I'm sure a lot of leaders face, and I'm sure probably have done it in a better way. I just wanted to know your view on is how do you drive cross-functional consensus, right? Because there are product on the table, there are sales on the table, there is engineering in the table on the table, there is finance on the table, and then obviously there are so while marketing's job is largely to tell the brand story and also set that experience, so to say, right, the customer experience agenda, but the delivery of it is actually not necessarily only marketing owns, because there are
Yeah,
so many touch points, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
how do we really get everyone to sign up something like
Yeah,
that?
and that's a good question. And again, like I said, a few things come into play of how we are able to deal with it. One is this whole sense of ownership is very, I would say, we have a concept called a DRI, which is an adopted concept, but a directly responsible individual. So for any initiative that you take, that you have, there is one individual who's directly responsible, okay, who's the captain, let's call it that. And teams have to listen to him or her, essentially, end of the day. Okay, that's there. Unless there's a huge conflict, the other people get involved, all that. But for the most part, we it's like we trust and even if it means we disagree, but we commit. Okay. And then because then you have one person's head on the line, you know that he or she is the DRI for it. So DRI concept is pretty popular internally here as in the company. That I think solves half the problem. For example, if you're running a Zoholic series of events, that my team is taking care of it. Everybody knows. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody agrees with everything. Okay. But we commit to that. Okay. That yes, this team owns it. They know what they're doing. We'll do a debrief later on, what could have been done better, what went well. All that is fine. But we cannot just keep disagreeing and then the whole idea of decision by committee is something I'm not just a fan of. Just put the best people on the job, let them do what they are because you trust them to, and they'll make mistakes, that's fine. But you know that end of the day when you go to sleep, you know that you put the best people on that job. Otherwise, you keep discussing and nothing comes out of it. Right? Because everybody has
So
an opinion. Opinions are easy to have. Ownership is hard. So we believe in that ownership piece, number one. And a lot of it is decentralized. People have autonomy and they take a lot of pride in that as well. At all levels. I've seen that. I've seen that from a young engineer to a young marketer to a young pre-sales person who's doing solutioning or consulting. I've seen that ownership in people. And that's, I think, a wonderful part of our cultural fabric.
Mm.
Okay, so that kind
Mm.
of makes that. So the
Mm.
DRI piece, this culture fabric piece together makes a lot of it easy. But again, I'm not trying to oversimplify it. I'm not trying to say there are not bad days. There are bad days. There are good days and there are bad days. And on a bad day, yeah, you beat your head to it and make it work. You bit of push, bit of pull, bit of influence, bit of request. I mean, let's just say, you make it work somehow. And I think the fact that most of us have been around here for a while, there's this larger shared understanding of each of our personas and capabilities and beliefs as well. That also helps. Just imagine you try and do this with everybody who's just a year old in the company
Oh
or
yeah,
or
yeah.
18 months old in the company.
It
Will
will
be
be a
much harder. Exactly.
bloodbath.
So I think that also helps, that
Mm.
we've seen each other through cycles.
Mm.
We've seen each other
Mm.
through the phase. So there's a lot
Mm.
of mutual trust and respect as well, inherently, you
I,
know.
on that note, I saw the Humans of Zoho
Oh
page.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
so wonderful, actually.
yeah. Thank
Seeing
you so
people
much.
15 years, 20 years, 25 years. And I
Yeah.
actually went through some of the, it was so great to see there are dedicated pages for these
Yeah, no, thank you
individuals.
so much for bringing that up. In fact, my team runs that initiative as well at Zoho. We feature employees who've been with us for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and beyond.
It
And
actually shows, like you mentioned, going back to the point of culture and fabric runs through the culture, the company, is that celebrating people, because at the end of the day, they are
yeah,
making this possible. I mean,
yeah,
I can only imagine if you spent 13 years, and in the contrast, I was thinking people have spent 25 years. You might be
yeah,
thinking,
yeah. Like I said, I've just become a Zoho teen, just entered my teens, right? So I'm still very young that way. If you look around, the people who've been here much longer. And
yeah,
yeah, that's the whole thing. Like I said, when someone who's been in the company for 13 years is talking to somebody who's been here for 20 years, there is some shared understanding too. Okay, that has been built over these years. So a lot of it just becomes easy because of that.
a lot of it is earned, right,
Yeah, of
through the
course. All of it
years.
is
Yeah,
earned. It's
yeah.
not about, I mean, at Zoho, honestly speaking, it's hardly about a title A, B, or
Pedigree
C.
or title, yeah,
Yeah.
or
A lot of
entitlement.
people, I mean, someone may be a lot more senior who's newer in the company, which though is an exception. We rarely hire people laterally. But let's say there's somebody who's joined in a certain role, whatever. It's just not because of his title, he or she kind of drive things. A lot of it is earned trust, respect, and past success or what you've done as a team together. And over the years, it only starts to get easier, I would say. So a
Mm.
lot of it is, and again, like I said, there would be some challenges here and there. There'll be disagreements, all that. But there is a DRI for everything. You trust the DRI. You let him or her take charge, make mistakes or whatever, and then at least we commit to. Even if we disagree, we commit to doing it. And this is across everything, not just marketing. This is across. In fact, the entire engineering side is even more intense. But that's how it is. And again, in all these years, I've seen this to be handled
Working.
magically beautiful. I would say, there are one-off cases where things go a little crazy, but for the most part, for our scale and complexity and all of that, I think it's fairly smooth.
So it's a good segue to ask this question, which I am keen to ask. So, what do you see in people when you hire people? Is there a
Hmm.
philosophy that you have?
Yeah, I mean, a few things. I mean, one is definitely shared value, for them to be part of this culture. Because if that's not there, it's going to be hard for them and hard for us. Why make it hard for both parties, right? So there is shared value, in terms of how we look at things, and which is everything from how we operate, how we are not rushing towards something, how we take time. Some people are very, very good, but they're very impatient.
Hmm.
They want it and they want it yesterday. Right. Nothing against them, but I know they would get frustrated here. They have to have the patience in this. And that patience is not just about delivery, it's also about earning trust. I mean, oftentimes you've had people who used to having a large team with them. But here, almost always, the team is not allocated to you. You build that team gradually. And building doesn't mean you always hire, but people move to your team when they start to see trust and vision and comfort on your team. So a lot of it is very different here. So we look at that fitment, number one. There is, of course, a sense of capability, obviously, right?
Correct.
Are you, I mean, there's certain things that are table stakes for that role. You have to have them, obviously. The other thing I would say is, we look at people who are looking to play the long game. And it's very hard to identify sometimes. I've been proven wrong myself. But sometimes you do get that feeling, because we believe that if someone has all these boxes checked, has the capability, when I say capability, I don't mean person knows it all, but has the ability to learn. I think a lot of it can be learned on the job. mean, all of us learned all the job, right? Nothing that I do today, I came having learned from a school or a college or whatever, right? It was all learned on the
Correct.
job. So if
Correct.
people have that, we try to, you know,
Basically, attitude over aptitude
yes,
sometimes, right?
yes, you know,
Yeah.
we kind of bring that into it. But yeah, these are some of the things. And again, I would like to say we do try to make sure that people have integrity in them as well. But
Mm.
often it's getting easier and easier to fake that as well. So it's very hard, you know, and a lot of it you get to know. There's only so much you can find. And again, Sridhar often says, our CEO, that interviews are hard to judge someone. The
Mm.
people can be very good at interview taking skills
Mm.
and could be horrible at the real job. Whereas the people who are very good at their jobs, you give them something to do it wonderfully, but they may not be great interview takers, right? They
Yeah.
may sit at an interview and not be able to open up, or not be able to be themselves or tell a story that you love to hear, right?
Mm.
So we do want to keep a check on how much do we attribute to interviews too, you know? And again, we don't look for credentials, degrees, and all that. We don't ask for anyway. We never did. But even interviews, and I've started to take it with a pinch of salt. So what I think, especially in engineering, we're already doing it now, is taking people on what you call an incubation.
Mm.
Come, we'll do something together. You get to know us, we get to know you. And that is working very, very well on the engineering side. On the marketing side, we've done some experiments here and there on internships,
Mm.
but not as much and as intense and as organized as we are doing with our uh, trainee program on the engineering side. And again, most people at Zoho are essentially engineers. You know, marketers are a fraction
Mm.
of that, right? So that
Right.
engineering thing, we have solved that by doing these internships, paid internships, where people come, train, they learn, they work on a problem, we get to know each other, etc. So I think that over a classic interview and a resume is who we are essentially. We prefer that model more than uh, looking at purely degrees and just interviews.
So you do lateral hire, but right? I mean, you do take people from
Occasionally here and
outside.
there, and again, lateral would mean typically very rarely beyond 5 or 6 years of experience, I would say.
Mm.
A 10
Mm.
plus year is very, very rare. I mean, you
And
have to have
then
a
groomed inside.
most talent here, most people here, you've been all these people you see here 10, 15, 20, 25 years. For most of them, Zoho was the first job. You
And I
know,
can
the
clearly see the reason from what you said so far is because there is a huge amount of cultural aspect to it. Plus, also
absolutely.
understanding Zoho, which is very, in many sense, a very unique organization itself. And I think one needs to just spend time to appreciate that part, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Coming
absolutely.
outside is, especially at a senior level with a lot of external
Absolutely.
baggage, can be very
Absolutely.
difficult.
Absolutely. It can be, you know, it can take you or make you think in ways which, you know, you would not assume that happens. But a lot of it is earned, as you said. And to earn, it takes time. You just cannot overnight, you know, no matter who you are, how good you are. You know, and typically at Zoho, it just takes time to sort of build that as well. So yeah, and also we do want to, again, we're not heavy on credentials, we're not heavy on Ivy League colleges. A lot of our colleagues are from tier two, tier three towns and cities and villages, right? And we want to keep it that way. That's
Mm,
also, it's not accidental, it's intentional. We
correct.
want to give the opportunity to people who otherwise would not have it, right? And that's the reason we don't go to any again, nothing against people who went to colleges, but we don't beat ourselves on going to the topmost institutes for hiring and things like that. You know, people come apply, they get through, they get through. We're not biased against them either, but we prefer to give opportunities to people who otherwise don't have them. You know, and that's why you see a lot of work happening in the tier two, tier three towns. There's whole schools that we run, you know, where we incubate kids, we teach them, we absorb them, we retain them. All of that is again part of the cultural aspect of how the company runs.
Correct. Let's switch gear, Praval, now, and I want to know Praval more on the other side. So, outside Zoho, we have spoken, I think, at a fair length about Zoho. Who is Praval? I mean, outside marketer. What are your interests? What do you do in your free
Okay.
time?
I think I'm not a lot, to be honest. I used to be a tennis player back in school.
Really?
I played
Okay.
lawn tennis for, yeah, national college, all of that.
Wow.
But
Okay.
lately, yeah, I mean, all that kind of went away somehow. But I still enjoy reading a lot of poetry. I would say I'm not a TV
Poetry?
person. Yeah, I read poetry.
Nice.
I'm not a heavy TV person or a
Hmm.
cinema person. Once in a while is fine, but poetry for sure. And then I'm into coffee as well, so almost a snob. So I didn't think you'll come to that, but now that you have, so spend a lot of time reading, understanding, trying different kinds of coffee from everywhere, from bean to cup. the whole
Wow.
process of grinding the beans to making a pour over in the morning and an espresso in the afternoon and things like that. So I appreciate good coffee, a lot of coffee communities that I'm part of, a lot of people who run cafes. I kind of hang out with them here and there. So yeah, coffee is thing. I should love cooking as well. I haven't been doing a lot lately, but I do enjoy that as well. So yeah, some of these things. Yeah, prefer a mountain and a beach over anything else. But life keeps us in big cities. But
Right,
whenever I
right.
get some time, I try to run away to the mountains or to the beach. Yeah.
One of the interesting thing I also noticed that you have always been working remotely, right, for Zoho? 13
Yeah.
years? Or did
Yeah.
you work in Chennai at all?
No, I've always been here. And again, we had a very small team earlier on.
Do you have an
But
office there?
now, oh yeah, we have an office here now, which is we almost have about 100 people now.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, pre-pandemic, we were like half a dozen people probably, but a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
moved here, didn't go back. Then we hired people here as well from a customer-facing roles perspective. So now we have a
Mm.
full-fledged office, about 100 people. On
Okay.
a given day, about 60, 70 people are in. So in fact, I'm in the office most days a week if I'm around. We don't have a policy
Mm-hmm.
straightforward, but I try to be there
Mm.
3, 4 days a week, I would say, which
Mm.
is what everybody does. Some teams are
Mm.
in pretty much every day. But for the
Mm.
longest time, yeah, I worked from home. I worked remotely from home, from airports, from hotels. But I would be in Chennai every 2, 3 months for at least a
Okay.
week, 10 days, 2 weeks, depends on. So I'm always like, I shuttle between this thing.
Got it. Got
But
it.
yeah, I mean, we are a company that creates software that lets you work from wherever. So we've
Yeah.
been dog fooding on that for more than a decade, yes.
So now that worked actually. So as long as it worked, right? It
Hmm.
really worked.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
what do you do to keep yourself updated? Do you read also some trade stuff or?
Oh yeah, so yeah, I'm heavily to a point where it's criminal to involved in reading on my phone and my devices and all that. So a lot of newsletter. I won't say a lot of podcasts anymore. I'm kind of done with that phase now, but a lot of newsletters that I subscribe to, journals that I read, a few magazines here and there. But yeah,
Hmm.
use all of that. And again, listen to interesting people I'm
Can
very
you
active on.
recommend any newsletters that would be you think is useful for the B2B community?
Oh yeah, one of my favorites, top of mind, would be Strategy by Ben. It's a very old newsletter that I subscribe to. There's one called MKT1, and a few others, but yeah, Strategy is top of my list and kind of very high intense
Hmm.
uh, commentary. And I
Hmm.
also read a lot of Om's commentary, Om Malik, who
Hmm.
started GigaOM many years ago. His commentary on stuff, but similar others, to be honest, and also fairly active on both LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm sorry, I still call it Twitter because being an early
Yeah,
user and it never became X for me,
X, right? Yeah.
where it became X for everybody else. But yeah, it's kind of lost its shine to some degree, but still a place where I hang around a lot. Yeah.
So where can people find you? Is Twitter or
X
LinkedIn a
and
better?
LinkedIn, yeah. X
Okay.
and LinkedIn is what people, about Twitter and LinkedIn is what I would say. First name
Okay.
Praval is where I am. Yeah.
Okay. All
Hmm.
right. Great, Praval. I think it has been a fantastic journey. I think almost an hour and a half. A
Oh
lot
yeah.
I have learned during this process, and it has been such a wonderful experience talking to you and knowing the Zoho journey and how you have been spearheading, at least on the marketing front, and have been able to. I think marketing has this inherent good leaders, good storytellers. So you have been able to sort of pull all those strings together to really paint that picture what Zoho is and what Zoho has been doing and where Zoho is going with it. So thank you so much for your time today on the marketing couch. It has been really a pleasure having you on the pod.
Oh, thank you so much, Jadi, for having me over and really appreciate it. It was a conversation long due. So thank you for the opportunity. And again, uh, trust me, none of this was possible without an awesome team that I have and some amazing colleagues and people at Zoho as well. So I think it just makes my job easier to sort of this thing. But there are a lot of people who've put in a lot of hard work in things that we spoke about today and otherwise. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity once again. Really appreciate it.
I really like that you always attribute your team and whichever the platform may be. And I'm sure the team feels equally belong here. So great. And I
Thank you.
look forward to connecting with you again, Praval.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Have
Thank
a
you
good
so
day.
much. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye bye.